Hello and welcome to episode 253 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. On the show today, I'll once again be joined by my good friend and co-host Sarah Says. We'll be starting a conversation about the different ways Disney wastes your time during a theme park day. Before we get started, I've noticed an old conversation returning to Diz Twitter, and I wanted to take a little time to talk about it. On June 28th of last year, Tiana's Bayou adventure opened at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. Of course, it replaced Splash Mountain, which was based on the animated characters from the 1946 movie Song of the South. This podcast has been airing for almost 5 years now. If you've been listening for any significant portion of that time, you know that this show aims to be inclusive. I'm not going to get into a huge debate over whether or not Song of the South is problematic, racist, and promotes so-called Southern culture. Enough people of color have covered this topic ad nauseum. I'm also not the type to go for clickbait or even particularly controversial topics. Even if I was a huge fan of Song of the South or Splash Mountain, I would err on the side of making the parks more comfortable for everyone. If a large percentage of black families feel uncomfortable because of a ride, I would rather them feel welcomed than to enjoy some old intellectual property. I will give some Splash Mountain fans the benefit of the doubt because they will admit that there are people who like this ride for all the wrong reasons. It's impossible to claim that there aren't racists who do like this ride simply because of the implications. Even the Confederate flag-waving country band Alabama wrote a song called Song of the South in which it frames that movie as being an important part in the pre-civil rights era South. In my humble opinion, even if I loved Splash Mountain, I think you can be judged by the people with whom you're agreeing on these topics. For you, it may just be an opinion about a ride and the nostalgia of something you did as a kid, but if that ride's existence hurts somebody who is a good person, or even worse, emboldens somebody who is a bad person, it is no longer worth it. I loved Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. It was fun. It was quirky. It's been gone from Walt Disney World for over a quarter of a century now. Was I upset the first time I visited the parks and it wasn't there? Sure. Did I pull up my big boy pants and get over it? Of course. That was for a ride that was more iconic, a Magic Kingdom ride based on an original Disneyland ride and an opening day attraction at both parks, and for a ride that wasn't at all divisive. At some point, it has to be about priorities. Listen, I was a history major in college. I could write a 50-page thesis on the ways in which Song of the South does glorify what many in the states of the former Confederacy view as Southern heritage. I can talk about how the stories were stolen from black culture and a white author profited off of them. Heck, I can even explain how a story from New Orleans, which was a part of the Louisiana Purchase, which led to westward expansion in the United States, fits in Frontierland more than a story that takes place in Georgia. Even if you forget all of that, when you realize the people who are happy that Splash Mountain has changed are the ones who want a more inclusive and welcoming theme park community, and that a large percentage of the people who are still fighting for it to stay are sliding into people's DMs to call them the N-word and spew hate. It starts to become guilt by association at some point. Frankly, if your intentions aren't bigoted or hateful, you're being used by the people who want to make this a political issue. They aren't upset that Splash Mountain is leaving. They're upset that Disney made a decision that was based on inclusion. Don't forget the timing of that announcement. Disney's statement about the change to Tiana's Bayou adventure came at the height of the George Floyd protests. Even if it is just a symbolic gesture, and it certainly was just a symbolic gesture on the part of the Walt Disney Company, it should be acknowledged that they did something to try to show solidarity with the people on the right side of history. Nostalgia is strong, But it isn't like Splash Mountain was the Haunted Mansion. The original version of the ride opened in Disneyland 2 years after Married with Children first aired on television. I went to Walt Disney World 5 times as a kid. Splash Mountain was only there the 5th and final of those visits. You can claim that your opinions on Splash Mountain aren't based on the source material. You can claim that you don't think it glorified the South. You can claim that you only like it because the animals were cute and you rode it when you were a teenager. Still, we have lost rides that have been around longer. People are still nostalgic for the Great Movie Ride, but there aren't thousands of accounts out there ready to drop into your DMs to call you a slur if you said you enjoyed Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. I have never seen one person with a certain type of red hat in their profile picture talk about how much they miss Delta Dream Flight, even though it was in Magic Kingdom 3 years before Splash Mountain. Not everyone racked up thousands of dollars in student loans to study this stuff. To you, it may just feel like a regular ride. That's fine. What makes me question your motives is when you won't stop talking about it. Rides come and go in the theme parks. Some changes make everyone mad. A few rare changes make everyone happy. This change made a lot of good people happy for positive reasons, and a lot of bad people angry for awful reasons. Even if you still miss the original version and don't quite understand why it was problematic, at least try to be content to be on the right side of history. A common accusation of those of us who are happy that Splash Mountain is gone is that we think all Splash Mountain people are racist. And I'm not saying that all fans of Splash Mountain are racist. I am saying that every Diz Twitter account that is racist seems to happen to be a pro Splash Mountain account as well. So just think about those things. All right, I'm going to ask that everyone who's still with me drop a positive comment on the podcast on the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. We have done a pretty good job cultivating this community. We don't have too many trolls popping up out of the woodwork, but I know that they are lurking. We just talked about something a little controversial, so let's try to stay positive, stay inclusive. While you're there, make sure you are subscribed. All this month, I'm taking part in Vlogmas. Every day in December, I will post a vlog, video, or podcast on the YouTube channel. Some of these videos are holiday related. Some of the videos are travel related. Some of the videos are conversations that you may have missed over the course of the year. Every time you click the like button, get someone new to subscribe, watch a video, or just leave one of those positive comments, you help bump us up in the algorithm. We want to keep growing this thing. There is so much divisiveness in the theme park community. We want to be one of the places where everyone can feel welcome. We want to be that inclusive place where we have conversations that inject positivity. Anyway, let's get to our main conversation today. Sarah says, thanks for being back on the show.
Yeah, thanks. I'm super happy to be here.
So today's topic is something that I really thought about when Disney first reopened the Walt Disney World parks from the pandemic closures. So I'm going to sort of set the scene for you because this is kind of a deeper idea than some of our other topics. It is not quite as obvious what I mean when I say this. So the parks reopened from the pandemic closures in July of 2020, and there was ridiculously limited capacity in the theme parks, especially on weekdays. You were dealing with, it felt like a couple hundred. I'm sure it was a couple thousand, but it was so empty in these theme parks that my first day back at about 4:45 in the afternoon, I stood in the middle of Fantasyland and just had my phone recording video, and I turned in a complete 360-degree circle, and you saw like 2 other people walking in Fantasyland.
Wow.
So you would think that with all of that happening and with that limited capacity, that you would be able to just do a ridiculous amount of things. And basically, I was able to do a ridiculous amount of things. Like, I was able to ride Seven Dwarfs Mine Train 5 times that day. I rode Big Thunder Mountain Railroad 5 times. But one of the things that I noticed very much when the only thing limiting your ability to get on the next ride is the fact that Disney has these built-in things to waste your time, was that Disney has these built-in things to waste your time. Like, they became more noticeable. So I wanted to have the conversation today about the different ways that Disney wastes your time. You buy a theme park ticket, whether it be an annual pass, whether it be a 5-day pass for a vacation, whatever you're buying, you have a limited amount of time in the parks. And especially for people who are coming on vacation, you want to make sure that you get the most out of that time.
Right.
But Disney wants that 3-day pass to turn into a 5-day pass.
Yes.
They don't want you to be able to do everything at Disneyland Park and Disney's California Adventure in 2 days. They want you to get a 3-4 day ticket. Walt Disney World wants you there, it feels like now, for like 3 weeks at a time.
Right. And it's still not enough.
And it will never be enough. I lived in Florida and went to the Disney parks about once a week for 6 years. And there's still stuff. I realize I still have never been to one of the water parks, and I have never been to one of the miniature golf courses.
Oh. Well, you know what? I'm not a big water park person, so you're not missing out much, in my opinion.
I'm not a water park person either, but the miniature golf, I should have done that, right? And I'm sure one day I will. But anyway, so Disney has built-in ways, in my humble opinion, to get you to waste time or to make things take longer than you think they're going to take. The very first and worst example of this is at Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World, and that's the Ticket and Transportation Center.
Mm-hmm.
So people might think, oh, my hotel in Orlando is 45 minutes away from the Magic Kingdom. So Magic Kingdom opens at 9 o'clock this morning. We're going to leave our hotel at 8:15.
Mm-hmm.
If you leave your hotel at 8:15, you are not getting into the Magic Kingdom until 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Easily.
And of course, I'm not talking about people staying on property. I'm talking about people who are driving from their hotels off property. I have timed it before on days that aren't busy, like I get there in the middle of the afternoon or in the late morning, and I'm getting out of my car in the TTC, and I have to get on the tram, and then the tram takes me. It's the 4th biggest parking lot in the entire world.
Oof.
So then the tram takes you through security.
Mm.
And then security, hopefully you get through without having to go to the second security line, but maybe you have to go to the second security line. And then you have to make the decision between the ferry boat or the monorail. And the monorail might have a 15-minute wait. Like, that is not out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
So then you go to the ferry boat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the ferry boat only leaves once the ferry boat is full, or it has a designated time that it will leave. So if you rush on the ferry boat and nobody's coming and you think, okay, let's go.
Right.
Nope. You're going to wait until that designated time or until they've filled it up to the point that they find it satisfactory. And then It's going to go around, and then you have to wait through getting in line to scan your ticket.
Yep.
All of that is time that if you're not prepared for it, is coming out of your park ticket day.
Oh, absolutely.
And anyone who is listening to this podcast is a big enough Disney fan to know that the difference between getting there at rope drop and getting there a half hour after rope drop is about 2 or 3 rides.
Yep.
Maybe more.
Oh yeah, it depends on the day for sure. But
It
Magic
depends on the
Kingdom,
day.
it's Magic Kingdom is like bonkers all the time. So
Right. If you get there when the park opens, you have a much, much greater chance. And this includes if you are staying on property. So if you're staying
right.
on property, okay, you don't have to deal with the TTC because even the
Right.
buses will take you there or the monorail will take you there.
But you still have to get and sit and wait for that bus because depending on what hotel or what resort you are at, you could get there and still wait 30 plus minutes for a bus, even if you're getting there super early. I mean, at Caribbean Beach, when we were there, we'd sit there, like we'd go to breakfast and we'd sit for almost 30 minutes waiting for a bus to take us to whatever park we were going to. And then we had to wait for it once we got on it to go around the resort and pick everyone else up. So it all depends on where you are. So,
I remember when we stayed on property at All Star Movies.
okay.
This was when we still lived in Arizona, but we were doing a vacation for the week in Walt Disney World. So every day we found out when the first bus was going to be there for the
Mm-hmm.
day to go to the park where we were going, because most of the time we were picking the park that had the extra magic hours for hotel guests.
Yep.
Now everybody who stays on property can get in a half hour before other guests. So we were getting the first bus there. But you have to make sure that if the first bus there leaves at 6:30 in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
you can't get there at 6:30 in the morning because there might be such a long line that you don't get on that first bus.
Right.
And those things end up mattering because you have to be at a certain place to get through security, and then you have
Yep.
to be at a certain place to do, you know,
Well, and
the
once you get
ticket
through
scan.
all of that, you have to wait in that line to get into the park to then get in line if you're rope dropping to get in another line to rope drop. So it's like you start your day with a line and you end your day with a line.
And you might say, well, everybody has to do this. And that's true.
Yeah.
But it's one of the ways that if you're not super prepared,
Right.
people make fun of the over preparedness of a lot of people for a Disney
Right.
vacation. But if you show up unprepared, huge chunks of your day
Yes.
will just be completely and totally lost.
Well, especially at Walt Disney World, because Disneyland, everything's so close together, you don't have to worry about transportation as much, right? So you can walk everywhere. But at Walt Disney World, I mean, I was one of those people the very first time I went as an adult. I didn't know you needed to make dining reservations. I didn't know you needed to do all that because Twitter and all that did not exist yet. So I had no idea. Thankfully, it was busy, but not as busy as it is like now. So we could walk up to the concierge when we got to the hotel and realize we didn't have reservations for anything. And they'd be like, no problem. Here's this, and this for today, kind of thing, right? But it's true. It's that you really do have to plan that because even if it's just this portion of getting in and out. I mean, I am not one that is going to sit there like I see online all the time that have every minute of their day planned out because that's just, to me, that's overkill. But for at least for this, it's true. It is a huge chunk of your morning that could be completely lost depending on what you want to do.
And you can say that there's not as much transportation at Disneyland,
Mm-hmm.
but let's say you're staying like where the hotel where we stayed when
Oh
we
yeah,
went to
to walk.
Disneyland in 2021. And we were staying block and a half away from
Yeah,
Disneyland.
it was probably like a 15-minute walk, maybe. And no, that's only
But
because it was like 90 degrees outside.
you still have to get through that security.
Yes. Yeah, you do.
And Disneyland doesn't have as many security. Like, if you
Nope.
go to Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, for example, there's security at the TTC.
Mhm.
Each of the resorts on the monorail loop has their own security.
Yep.
There's security 3 different ways to actually walk into Magic Kingdom. So there are limited security checkpoints at Disneyland, so they can
Right.
get really, really backed up. And that's another way that Disney can waste some of your time.
Yes.
And you can say, well, Disney has to do security and Disney is going to run the buses. It's not their responsibility to tell you that, oh, well, if you miss the 6:30 bus, you might not get another bus till 7 and then you might,
Right.
blah blah blah. And I
Yeah,
get
you could see
all of
10
that.
for Hollywood Studios and 0 for Magic Kingdom in like an hour.
Exactly. And the other thing is, I'm not saying that Disney always does these things on purpose, but a lot of them, Disney has no incentive to fix them,
Right.
because if you do find that your once in a lifetime vacation, maybe you plan to have an off day or 2 off days and you're not getting as much done as you want and you buy that extra park ticket while you're
Right.
there, Disney has no incentive to prevent you from doing that.
Right.
Another thing that Disney does, and this is part of the design, is a great example of this is Epcot and World Showcase Lagoon. To get to the Italy Pavilion, you either have to walk half a mile on either side, or
Yep.
roughly half a mile on either side, or you have to take one of the friendship boats
Yep.
over the lagoon, which ends up taking time. You have to wait for the next one. And Epcot is a very spread out park.
Yes.
Magic Kingdom has areas where you just can't, you'll see Space Mountain back there,
Mhm.
but then you have to go around. You have to choose which way you're going to go around the People Mover loading station, and you have to
Yep.
choose which way you're going to go around the Joffrey's Coffee. And there are obstacles in your way. They call them weenies because Walt used to have the hot dogs that he would dangle for his dogs. And then he thought, oh, let's do something similar in the parks. We'll have these big objects that you see and you just gravitate towards them.
Yeah.
But if you just gravitate towards them without a plan, you don't realize that you're going to have to kind of go around and meander to get to them. They're not as close as they appear to the human eye.
Right.
And even if they're as close as the crow flies,
Mhm.
like Big Thunder Mountain in Walt Disney World, back when they used to have the Rivers of America,
Mhm.
yeah, you can see Big Thunder Mountain. It's right there, but you have to walk all the way around the Rivers of America
Yep.
to get to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad and to get to the queue. All of those things are things that they do partially to waste your time.
No, that totally makes sense. Thinking about that, it actually reminds me too of in California Adventure is you see Guardians Mission Breakout and you're like, it's tall, it's right there. Oh no, it is a hike. Like it takes a while to get back there. And you have to decide, like you said, with like Space Mountain, you have to decide which way you're going to go. Are you going to go through Hollywood and hope that that one side road is open back there by the theater? Or are you going to have to go cut around Avengers Campus and back and cut in front of Cars Land and cut through all of that? Like, how are you going to get there? There's like 3 routes, right? So, especially if you're someone who's rope dropping or wants to get there really early, like you got to know how you're going to get there and hope that not everybody else is trying to get there the same way, because then it's just going to make it that much slower to get there.
Absolutely. And all of these things are ways that they take up your time, are
Yes.
things that you might not take into consideration when you are planning. Another one is the Genie app.
Yes.
Now, I don't exactly know how the My Disney Experience app is working right now. Even the last time I went to Walt Disney World, I didn't really use it. I just did what I wanted to do because we're not really on that same time crunch as people who are doing a once in a lifetime vacation.
Right.
But there are times when the app will give you suggestions of things to do. Disney is not motivated to have you accomplish 20 things in a day. So when it's telling you while you're in Tomorrowland, the Pirates of the Caribbean is a 15-minute wait, you might think, oh, Pirates is only a 15-minute wait. It's usually a 30-minute wait. I'm going to go, well, by the time you get there, it's 15 minutes, and the app has been telling everybody else to go there.
Exactly. Who's been closer and
So now it's a 25-minute wait, and the entire thing is a moot process. So Disney does not have the incentive to have everything really run smoothly. And another thing that they will do is not enforce the lines.
right.
Now, this is twofold. The first one makes 100% sense. It shouldn't be the responsibility of cast members to police the queues. And it shouldn't be the responsibility of cast members to say, no, you weren't in line. Like, you have to. I get that. That would start fights. It would just be a nightmare. But when a party is not being accounted for in the queue, that impacts the wait time that Disney is showing you. So if it's showing a 15-minute wait for Haunted Mansion, but one person is standing in line for a party of 7,
Right.
and there's 5 of those one person waiting in line for a party of 7, then all of a sudden that changes the dynamic of the wait time.
Yep.
And like I said, the first reason is because Disney doesn't want cast members getting involved in that. I 100% agree with that. But 2, that's another way to sort of slow down your day. Another reason I think they want to slow down your day isn't just because they want to sell you more single day tickets, which is the biggest part. But another one is that I think they want to cut down the expectations that you can do a million things in a day.
Yes.
They
Agreed.
want to cut down the expectations that you can accomplish everything. Because let's say Tiana's Bayou Adventure is just down all week.
Right.
They didn't anticipate it. They weren't able to say it was a closure. Maybe they get it open for a couple hours in the morning, but it goes down again at night.
Yep.
Disney wants to temper your expectations because if you go that first time and in a week you do accomplish absolutely everything you wanted to do, then you're going to expect that the next time.
Exactly.
And maybe they'll have a happy customer that first week, but the odds of it happening that next time are pretty slim. So I think Disney always wants to leave you wanting more.
Right. And I think that social media doesn't really help. And the sheer amount of Disney influencers that there are now do not make it a realistic expectation for people coming to the parks who are not regular visitors.
That's where we're going to leave things off in this episode. Sarah will be back next week to continue this conversation on the different ways Disney wastes your time on a theme park day. Coming up later this month, I'll be continuing my series on the tenure of former Disney chairman and CEO Michael Eisner, with a few episodes covering the Disney Renaissance. For about a decade between The Little Mermaid and Tarzan, Disney Animation put out some of their most iconic and well-loved movies. For the most part, these films were both box office successes and also extremely culturally relevant. The soundtracks not only sold well, but they produced legitimate radio hits. The Disney Renaissance returned to the concept of the Disney princess that had been dormant for decades. The Disney Renaissance, for better or for worse, changed the way all animated movies, not just Disney animated movies, picked voice actors for their projects. These movies also continue to play a huge part in the theme parks with restaurants, rides, meet and greets, stage shows, and of course, merchandise around almost every corner. Since this year is the first time we've had a new episode air on Christmas, I thought I would highlight the sense of giving, hope, and charity that is such a hallmark of the season, pun intended. I will be going back to an interview I did with a mother who was only able to take her family to the Orlando theme parks with the help of the charity Give Kids the World. The interview first aired in March of last year, but not everyone gets to hear every episode, and we've gained quite a few listeners since then. If you want to hear something uplifting, you will not want to miss it. It is also Vlogmas, so every day this month I will have something interesting airing on the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. We will be back next Thursday with Sarah Says. Until then, have a great week.